Hi guys, Hengist here from House of Hengist Comics, and a big welcome back to the channel and a big hello to all our new subscribers. Today, once again, we find ourselves on the front line. It's Blitzkrieg, episode 13, KEMPISCHE KANAAL. But first, let's look at the news. And today we've got a map here which is dated the 13th of May 1940. We've got the sort of dial line in situ there, as you can see, and you can see the movement arrows, but I wanted a bit more, and thanks to Ace Destroyer, I've basically spoken to him and he's going to provide these maps on a day-by-day basis, and they're color-coded, which should really help us see where all the nations are and how they're responding to each thrust. We've also got the Germans moving forward very rapidly. They're still running into civilians themselves, but when they're re-equipped and they're moving with real impetus. At the van, as usual, we've got armoured cars. We also see the Kratschützen out on the flanks. These are very versatile mobile infantry. And whatever problem they seem to encounter, they get over it very quickly. They're led by very energetic officers, and over above their head are the Stukas, this sort of airborne artillery platform, which can be called in by Luftwaffe officers that are working with the panzers. There is a deliberate strategy, so discord, and a lot of civilians are also being injured, as we can sort of see in the diaries, and I read a couple this week, and obviously I think this photo exemplifies the general terror that is being sown across the lowlands as these Stukas wail into action. But today we're going to be also looking at bicycles, and in the lowlands these are very prevalent in Belgium, Holland, France and Luxembourg. And in the First World War, I think the bicycle started to be employed with infantry, and you get that mobile infantry with the road. They can move that much quicker, and they can also carry more, such as ammunition. But first, let's look at the Belgian forces today, and what have we got? Well, we're going to be looking at a Belgian Guide company. These are all confident trained, B3 infantry, mortars, machine guns and support. And I've also dug out this, which basically gives us an indication of their order of battle. You can freeze this if you want. I think it's 22 divisions, 7 corps with about 300 armoured fighting vehicles. Now, the cavalry in the First World War had a rich legacy, and I think they were armed with lances, as well as obviously their sabres and rifles. They've ditched the lances and are still mobile, but I wanted a nod back, and this is a previous number of photos I've shown. These came from QRF, incidentally, with a few conversions here. Now, in this game, we're going to have sort of unknown reserves as well, so the sides won't be aware fully of what they're going to get. We could have bicycle infantry or the T-13 tank destroyer with its 45mm anti-tank gun, which is an excellent weapon and can take on any panzer. Against them, the German forces today basically consist of a German infantry bicycle company. Again, confident train. We'll have about 3 platoons plus supporting weapons. And again, we want to explore all elements of the war, not just panzer-related actions. And I think this is really important as well. They may be supported by weapons such as flak 20mm. We hope also they'll have their trusty 7.5 stripped down artillery, some of our favourite pieces within the game. And also we may actually see some Kratschützen appear, who knows, and we also hope we may actually see other equipment such as the forward air controller or some reconnaissance. But my big favourite I hope we see is the Stug 3A, which is a wonderful self-propelled artillery piece which later became a tank, and that I think will be very interesting in this context, because we allow them to bombard and so much more. So without further ado, let's now get into the mission, research and deployment. And again, we start with the contact, and then we start researching this. And we go straight to Google Maps. We look at the terrain, again, classic patchwork. Here's a bit of the canal. Sam dug this photograph up as well. Although not present on the actual table, the terrain around it is important when you're trying to construct these type of sets. And Sam has also built a much improved improved map, and I hope this is going to be useful for you guys if you want to reconstruct these types of battles yourselves using our videos. So that's very important. Moreover, we're going to be doing a change of orders. This will be deck driven, neither side will be aware of it, and suddenly we may go from encounter to one sudden change where they'll have to be moving on a particular objective. And this is typical of German tactics. And so here's the deployment area, 12 inches for the Germans at the top of this map, and 30 inches or below will be the Belgian forces. And effectively, I suppose we can define it as an encounter followed by a change in order. So this is going to be very interesting indeed. We're also using ACHTUNG Panzer, which are our rules that we're building now for the community, and this will be an infantry driven deck, so there'll be lots of events including weather and who knows, even possibly tyre punctures for the bicycle troops. So without further ado, let's get into the battle action. Okay, the weather's good. It's not quite Führer weather, so to speak, but around the farm, Pierre's farm and Madame Müller's house, all is pretty quiet. That said, Gibson, a faithful hound, senses a storm is about to hit. And we're also going to see quite a lot of livestock around, including cows and so on. Whether they'll affect the game, we'll see. But here we've got basically the deployment. The blue is the Belgian forces, the German the black, and the squares are the objectives. So you can see how the forces are deployed here. And as we take a look, also the Belgians have the benefit of local knowledge, so if they're in concealing terrain, they also get the benefit of being guard to ground. Their cavalry won't get those advantages when they're being higher than the terrain itself. But this is the first objective, and the first one that the Germans pulled, which is the parachute in the central position. They've won the initiative, and then they start pressing forward, obviously, with the reconnaissance. Their bicycle troops get that recon move, so that gives them an additional bit of speed, but they're covering a lot of open ground. The Belgians have also reacted by starting to move their cavalry, their scout cavalry, to the centre, as the Germans move up with their armoured cars and their scouts in the front. They also make a mad dash across the cattle field towards the other buildings, the cottages. So what we now see is basically a heavy machine gun which controls the centre here. And we've also got basically quite a lot of, I suppose, cover and deep cover in effect as well. So that could be problematic. But the Germans basically managed to penetrate the corn rather quickly and are basically moving also onto this position. When we see a sort of strange response here, and this is the tactical map, you can see what's going on roughly here. They've pulled the objective in the middle, and they're basically focusing on two platoons on the right towards that rough ground and the cottages. Well, the Belgians see this and actually withdraw from around the cottage sector as well, as the bicycle troops, who are in light woods at this point on the outer perimeter of it, move forward. The cavalry, the Belgian cavalry, the Guides, are moving, and they're also fixated on trying to take this objective straight away, which is the German objective. They've got their heavy machine guns anti-air in the centre. Their cavalry sort of readjust and tactically start to move more centrally to the position. Cards, these are sort of coming up. This is a typical card, a displacement card, and they take full advantage of that and get that additional chance to make displacement. But the Germans have moved up, and they've got a new infantry platoon that have arrived in lorries that have moved up as well to support the bicycle troops, and they've got machine guns. Now these old armoured cars don't really pose much of a threat, but there's now nothing really anchoring that flank. And where the battle really takes place is near this swamp, and basically, as you can see, the French forces are around this. The Belgian forces. And what you've got is that the Germans press immediately forward, very aggressively, and go straight for this objective straight away. We've had no event cards turning up, and we've had no change of orders. They're also very tactical. They smoke with their mortar, cover the heavy machine gun, and then make a real effort to take this objective straight away. They actually manage this and basically then consolidate backwards, so to speak. This places the Belgians in a terrible position because they've got nothing behind them. Even their mortars have got no real clear line of sight. Their spotters can't see much, and their cavalry therefore decide to launch a desperate attack in the centre to try and relieve the pressure basically on the right flank, because they need to take that, otherwise they're effectively going to have lost the game. And basically we now see this charge basically manifest where they're trying to hit the front line platoons, but defensive fire, the scouts basically disengage before contact, and that leaves basically the infantry platoons who open fire and basically wipe out an assault by the Guide infantry, and the Guide cavalry are unable to sort of continue as the German infantry press off an attack, basically shoot it down and stop it dead, and the cavalry are left in the middle of the corn with no real support as the German dispatch rider is racing across the table, and it's all over before it even started, and it's a German victory, guys, by 25 points. And ultimately, what can we say? Well, I don't know whether this was about deployment. We didn't get to test a lot of things that we wanted to, but in terms of how quickly the Germans basically were on the position again, and how effective they were in basically marshalling their forces, it really put the Belgians on a back foot, and I think they wanted to try and knock the Germans out before they in turn were pressed, and they'd had a rather thin line, and we saw no reserves come in, and there's a huge amount of reserves for this battle, but it never really manifested. So you can't really be too critical on a very quick game, and I suppose it was deployment that really affected them. But I've also got a number of videos here that I want to recommend. Joe from Acceptable Casualties, of course, Frank Keys from Panzerschule, a great painter as well, and of course my friend Nick from British Legion, who does all sorts of videos, but he's very helpful if you want to start videos. Go to him, he's like the godfather of videos. And of course a new friend who's also Dave White has just started doing ACHTUNG Panzer basically in the Far East, and he's our man in the Far East, so to speak. I'd also like to recommend Lloyd Clark's work, Blitzkrieg, and it looks at the myths and the real action. And we've got air combat coming up as well, which we can't wait for as well, so that should be quite good. Obviously Gibson, he's the club mascot. He did really well last night. Basically everyone's trying to curry favour by feeding the beast. Hopefully the dice gods will shine on them as a result. But we've got much more work going on also within our new Ludos, which Rude Boy Craig's building and doing an absolutely splendid job. So we've got a lot more coming up, and it's chin chin, as Panther would say. Probably not the best result, the most exciting game. We didn't get all the mechanics in, but it was still bloody good fun. So stay tuned for more from Blitzkrieg, and it's over and out from me. Bye for now.